I know, when people see a man living alone, they often think he must be lonely. But the truth is not really like that. I live alone not because I lack someone, but because I have learned to be enough with myself. There was a time when I also thought that happiness was having someone always by my side, endless conversations, hugs every night, and goodnight messages. But then, after going through enough, I realized sometimes silence is the most healing thing. I choose to live alone, not because I refuse to love, but because I understand that love starts with knowing how to take care of yourself first. I don't chase noisy fun, nor do I need a relationship just to fill the void. I want, if I have a companion, it must be someone I can sit next to in silence without feeling embarrassed. The person where I can, without even trying, still feel like I'm enough. Living alone teaches me to listen to myself, to listen to life, and to appreciate the presence of anyone who comes in. Because when a man chooses to live alone, it's not because he gives up, but because he chose to live his life as fully and peacefully as possible. I once loved the wrong person. I once poured all my trust, all my gentleness, everything I had, only to be replaced by silence, disappointment, feeling like the whole world was falling apart at my feet. At that time, I didn't know that sometimes people don't leave you because you're not good enough, but because they're not ready enough to receive that good thing. I was wrong not only in love, but also in the way I treated myself. I think if I give enough, if I sacrifice deeply enough, people will stay. But then I realized love is not a trade-off, nor is it a one-sided effort. There are also days when I feel like I have nothing left to hold on to. Sitting quietly in the dark, I asked myself, do I deserve to be loved again? Is there anyone patient enough to touch the wounds that I still try to hide? But it was in those moments that I learned to embrace my pain, not to avoid it, but to understand and heal. I'm not perfect. I fell, tripped, and hurt. But I got up, and I know if someone comes later, they will not meet a cold or closed man. They will meet someone who was once broken, but knows how to love with a truer, deeper heart, and is no longer afraid of losing. I live alone, not because I've given up on love, but because I'm learning how to love properly. And I believe if love comes again, I will recognize it and know how to preserve it, because I have lost it, and I grew up from there. I used to think that healing was something far away, a long and tiring journey, or something that only happened when someone good came and pulled me out of the quagmire. But then I realized no one can really save me if I don't choose to step forward. I started from very small things. Every morning when I wake up, instead of lying in bed with a series of negative thoughts, I make myself a cup of coffee and step outside to enjoy the sunshine. Every night, I learn to let go of the messages that don't come, the people who have gone, and write a few lines in my notebook to remember that emotions also need to be heard, not suppressed. I learn to be quiet with myself. Instead of looking for someone to fill me up, I learned to forgive those who hurt me, and most importantly, for myself in my weak days. I realized I don't need to be strong all the time. Healing is not about becoming invulnerable, but about daring to touch your wounds without fear. I started doing things I had forgotten about. Walking in the park, listening to old songs, rereading books that once inspired me. With each passing day, I find myself softening and also deepening. Healing does not make me a perfect person, but it makes me a kinder, more sincere person, and willing to love again, this time not to fill the void, but to build something truly solid together. And I believe that is the most beautiful gift I can give to anyone who enters my life later. I spent a long time living like a copy of the expectations around me. Do what others think is right. Wearing clothes that people compliment on is appropriate. Say kind words even though sometimes you just want to stay silent. I used to be afraid of being criticized, afraid of being disappointed, afraid of being considered different. And just like that, I gradually lost my true feelings. But there was a moment one very quiet afternoon when I sat alone and found myself so drained of energy that I didn't want to say anything else. I realized that living to please everyone, in the end, only makes yourself the most tired. And that fatigue doesn't come from what I do, but from the fact that I'm no longer myself. From that day on, I started choosing to live honestly, not a selfish or rebellious kind of life. It's about living with choices. Choose what makes your heart warm, what makes your eyes brighter. I started from saying no when I needed to, from being more honest with my feelings, and from learning to accept that not everyone will understand or agree with me. But from that moment on, I felt more relieved. I connect with others with sincerity, not with a mask. I work with faith, not fear. And real relationships, no matter how small, become deeper and warmer than ever. Living is not easy, but once I chose it, I don't want to go back. Because every morning, waking up, being myself, laughing freely and loving without having to strain, is the most worthy thing I've ever given myself. And I hope you will also dare to choose that, because you deserve it. There was a period of time when I tried to become the right type of a strong man, always knowing what I wanted, speaking little, showing little emotion, not allowing myself to be tired or weak. But the more I tried to become that version, the more I found myself drifting away from myself. And strangely, the people who truly love me don't need those things. They just need me to be me. Then one day, I decided to try being more gentle with myself. Don't force yourself to always be right. Don't force yourself to please everyone. Don't hide from your true inner feelings. I started saying I don't know when I really didn't know. I allow myself to be sad. I allow myself to be tired. I allow myself to stop when I need to. And you know what? As I became comfortable with myself, I started to feel more at ease. I no longer have to struggle to be loved. I'm not trying to show off anything. I just need to appear with a real smile, with listening eyes, and with a hand ready to hold someone when they need it. I realize that attraction doesn't come from trying to be perfect. It comes from acceptance and peace within yourself. When you are truly comfortable with yourself, you will also make the person next to you feel easier and safer. And in a world full of expectations and comparisons, a person who is at peace with himself is a rare gift. I'm not perfect, but I'm real, and I'm comfortable with that. I used to think that love means sacrificing everything, that if we are sincere enough, try hard enough, change enough according to the other person's wishes, then love will last long. But after many times of pain, I realized there is a very thin line between understanding and losing yourself. I've changed the way I dress, the way I talk, even my dreams, just to suit someone. But the more I tried, the more lost I felt. And the most painful thing is, no matter how hard I try, the other person can still leave. That's when I understood. If love forces you to give up yourself, it's not healthy love. Now, I still love, but I no longer sacrifice myself like before. I learned how to say no when needed, learned how to protect my boundaries without feeling guilty. I don't need to do everything perfectly to be loved. And the person who stays with me is the person who loves even those imperfections. I believe that true love does not require you to sacrifice your freedom or personal values. It helps you be yourself better every day without losing your roots. When you love while still maintaining your independence, self-respect, and personal joy, that's when love is truly beautiful. I choose to love firmly, gently, and without having to sacrifice anything that makes me who I am. Because if you have to exchange yourself for love, then what you keep is not love, but only the fear of loneliness in the guise of love. There are people who enter the room and make everything noisy. They bring vibrant energy, rushing words, and always high emotions. But then there are also people who don't need to say much, don't need to try to impress, but still make us feel strangely secure. He's that kind of person. I used to be attracted to people who were interesting, good at talking, and knew how to make me laugh. But then, after a long and tiring day, I realized that what I needed most was not excitement, but gentle stillness. It's an arm that can hug you without asking too much, just being there fully present. He doesn't say fancy words, but when I was worried, his eyes softened, his hand placed on my back, gently and firmly. No need to try too hard to comfort me. Just that presence made me feel like I no longer had to fight alone. I realized that peace is not empty silence, but a space safe enough for us to relax ourselves. He doesn't need to stand out. He doesn't need to be full of excitement all the time. But he's the first person I think of when I need a place to lean on. In this noisy world, meeting someone who is a quiet place for your heart to rest is a rare thing. And I know I don't need to find someone to make my heart beat faster. I need someone to keep my heart from breaking. He did it not by words, but by the way he stayed quietly. There is one thing that I used to be very afraid of, and that was loneliness. I used to think that if there was no one by my side, if no one loved me, then I must be living in the wrong direction. But then, there was someone who taught me that loneliness is not the scariest thing in the world. What's really dangerous is when we have to hide ourselves, live a pretend life, just to stay in a relationship that isn't real. He's not afraid of nights alone, not afraid of quiet meals, and also doesn't try to find someone just to fill the void. He lives honestly, sometimes with a straightforwardness that makes others unfamiliar, sometimes with silence when he doesn't want to try to appear okay. He once told me, "I would rather accept loneliness in truth than be loved in a fake way." I used to not understand that. But then, when I'm with someone like that, I feel like I can breathe. I don't need to try to please anyone. I don't need to suppress my emotions just because I'm afraid of being abandoned. He doesn't expect me to be perfect. He just needs me to be myself, whether I'm radiant or tired today, whether I'm strong or weak. And thanks to him, I learned to accept the gaps in life. Know that sometimes loneliness is just a necessary break for you to return to your truest nature. Living to pretend, no matter who it is for someone, is a way to slowly make yourself disappear. He doesn't promise to always stay. But when I'm with him, I feel secure in being true to my feelings. And that is the most beautiful freedom that someone can give to the person they love. Maybe you used to think that a man who makes your heart flutter must be one with many beautiful words, intense actions, or endless promises. But the more I grow up, the more I realize there is a quieter but much deeper type of man. That is a man who was hurt but did not become bitter because of that. Is someone who knows what's wrong and learns how to fix it. A person who doesn't try to live to please anyone else but lives honestly with himself, with his heart. He is not noisy or ostentatious, but his presence is enough to make people around him feel at peace. Because he understands that love is not about sacrificing yourself, but about walking together in respect. I'm not saying that everyone is lucky enough to meet such a person right away, but I believe if you are on the journey to find love, or even learning how to heal yourself, you are still on the right track. Be brave and live true to your heart. Be patient with old hurts. And believe that there will be someone like you who is gradually maturing to be able to love in the most complete and healthy way. Real love is not a race to see who comes first. It's the companionship of two people who are at peace enough with themselves to not need each other, but still choose to stay. And who knows, that might be what makes you happiest after all.